I asked 100 FPL experts for their Game Week 6 transfer moves, captains and chip strategies, so you guys can follow along with the expert trends every single week. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and it's a very big week for transfers. I'm sure you guys are already thinking about some moves, so hopefully we can help back it up with our expert trends this week, or maybe you don't have a clue what you're doing. Don't worry, we've got you covered. So thank you as always to our 100 FPL experts who helped us out by volunteering their data this week. What are they up to? What are they doing? There is a lot to talk about today, so let's get stuck straight in. So let's start off with the transfers and chips this week, guys. And yeah, like I said, there is a lot of transfers being made. In fact, just 9% of our experts are opting to make no transfer this week, which is pretty low, pretty low. We usually see quite a few rolls each week. Certainly last game week, we saw a lot of our experts rolling the transfer and maybe eyeing up some moves this week, and that's kind of what we're seeing now. We do see 11% of our experts making one transfer, but that actually is pretty low, as we see 33% of our experts making 2 transfers this week, making those double moves and using up those free transfers that they have saved. We in fact have 8% of our experts making 3 or more transfers. One of our experts is actually making 4 transfers this week, using 3 free transfers and taking a hit. So if you've got plenty of transfers ready to go, then this could be a week to use them. But if you don't have transfers, or maybe you want to save them, maybe 3 or more transfers is not enough for you, then don't worry. The wild card or the free hit is also an option for you guys, because our experts, well, 39% of them are using either a wild card or free hit chip. And speaking of chips, this is definitely a week to consider using a chip. This is the highest number of chip usage we have seen all season among our experts. So hopefully, using all these chips, our experts will begin to climb the tables and maybe catch up with some of those people who have maybe already used a chip this season. So first of all, 1% on a bench boost. Not really a trend here, nothing to go by. I think just one individual person, their bench looks pretty strong this week, but most likely your bench is not going to be at its strongest in Game Week 6. However, we do see 36% of our experts using their triple captain chip this week. And yeah, no guesses, no surprises really who that is going to be on. We will speak about that when we come to the captain section of the video. But this is a huge week to use the triple captain chip if you are not using another chip. So we are seeing a lot of chips being used this week, but those who are not on a chip, well, they are, because they're using a triple captain. So if you're not on a bench boost, not on a free hit, not on a wild card, it is probably good advice to use the triple captain chip in Game Week 6, this very game week. We see 1% of our experts using a free hit chip this week, which is surprisingly low, actually. I think a lot of people initially planned to use the free hit in Game Week 6, but that has massively shifted as we see 38% of experts using their wild card in Game Week 6. So that is huge, guys. If you are not happy with your team right now, this is definitely a week to wildcard. I have actually already uploaded technically 2 videos on the wildcard. I posted my initial wildcard draft on Sunday on the FPL Mate channel, and I also spoke about my more recent wildcard draft on the Stick to FPL podcast. Of course, guys, if you haven't checked out the podcast, feel free to just search Stick to FPL on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever else, and you will find it. And in that podcast, I did go through my latest draft. I will be doing another draft tomorrow, of course, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that one. But generally, guys, it's wildcard time if you feel you need it. But there is still plenty of good transfer recommendations that we have for you guys this week, because there's actually more experts using transfers than there are using a wildcard this week. So plenty of amazing transfer data this week, which is a bit of a contrast to last game week where we didn't have too much transfer data. But yeah, let's get cracking. First of all, we're going to have a look at the overall player-based transfer trends to see if there are any similarities between this and the experts. And we do see that Erling Haaland, not only is he the most popular transfer among the overall player base, but he also has a strong trend among experts. So a lot of experts will be buying Haaland. You will soon see that. We also see some nice little trends here for Semenyo, Reinders, and Jai, and Bruno Fernandes. All of those players also are very much interesting to our experts. However, Senesi, I think just 1 transfer in for him, so not really too much interest there. No new transfers in for Donnarumma, Richarlison, Gravenberch, or Guehi of Crystal Palace. So if you are thinking about buying those players, I think, obviously you've got to make your own decisions, but be aware that you are not kind of aligned with the expert thinking this week if you are going for some of those players, because our experts, generally speaking, are not interested in any of these guys, perhaps with the exception of Senesi, as he already does have a little bit of ownership, and I think a lot of wildcarders, most wildcarders, maybe 99% of expert wildcarders will include Senesi in their teams this week. So yeah, outside of that, Donnarumma, Richarlison, Gravenberch, and Gehi, not interesting to experts. So just be aware of that one if you were thinking about any of those moves. Still fine to go for them, but we're just here to relay the expert thinking. So let's talk about the transfers out before we have a look at the transfers in. Who is being sold? Who is being sacrificed this week by our experts? And by the way, guys, we have the last game week owned data here as well, and we also have the transfers in. Now, this is not including any of the wildcarders or free hitters. That is just too difficult to track all of that data. So apologies for that, guys. We do try and do our best to give you the best data possible, but some things are just too difficult to do. Maybe that will change at some point in the future, but for now we can see that certainly among the non-wildcarders, the non-free hitters, we see 33 transfers out for Salah, which is pretty enormous. That is a huge number there. So it looks like that's going to take Salah's ownership among experts down to around 52%. But I think after we include the wildcarders and the free hitters, Salah could be down in like 10, 15, 20% max of expert teams, which is really a lot lower than at the start of the season where Salah seemed pretty much essential. So a real big shift in the opinion of Salah as he sees a mass exodus from expert teams. We see Ollie Watkins as the second most popular transfer out, 16 transfers out for him, which is very significant. Again, not really proving value for money, has been a disappointment since the start of the season. A real surprise that such a consistent player has been, well, so consistently bad. We've got Mateta here as well, 11 transfers out, so really big numbers for these two forwards, Watkins and Mateta. But we also see a few midfielders with some transfers out here as well. 5 transfers out for Rodgers, similar situation with Watkins, with Aston Villa just being so disappointing, and Florian Wirtz after his benching last week. A lot of people are hopping off Wirtz, but I think we've already seen a trend with Florian Wirtz over the course of this season in these expert videos that he has been dropping down in ownership each and every week. He gets a little bit lower. So yeah, I think if you've been following along with the videos, you probably would have kind of guessed that Wirtz would be a player who is continuing to drop, and maybe you already got rid of him, in which case, fair enough. Mark Guehi is a player who is off as well. 4 transfers out for him. All of the Palmer owners are going to be selling him, with him now confirmed to be out for 3 or more weeks. That is going to be an easy sell. A couple of transfers out for Chris Wood, but it does look like some people are keeping Chris Wood ahead of his fixture against Sunderland this game week. Ekatike suspended, a couple of transfers out for him, and Brennan Johnson, now that he is rotation risk, he is seeing some transfers out as well. And by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure you do drop a like. It massively helps out the channel. And I know a lot of you guys, around 40% watching this video right now, are not subscribed to the channel. So I thought, how can I incentivize you to subscribe to FPL Mate? Well, one of our subscribers picked at random this game week will be gifted the new FC26 game. So if you do want a copy of FC26, I will give one away to a random subscriber this week. We'll maybe do some more giveaways in the future. So make sure you are subscribed if you want a chance of winning that. We will announce the winner in the next couple of days. So hit subscribe to win FC26. Please. I appreciate it. Let's look at the transfers in now, guys, and no surprises here. Erling Haaland is at the top of the list. I think we all accept and understand that this guy is, I don't want to say essential, but I'll whisper it quietly, essential. Come on, guys. You've got to have Haaland in your team. His data is phenomenal. He looks the center of everything Man City are doing right now. And that is proven by our experts really, really trending towards him. 37 transfers in for him, and that excludes all of the free hitters, all of the wild carders, who I would imagine all have Haaland in their team. And I think we can kind of back that up when we come to the captain section of the video. I would imagine that everyone on a wild card will have Haaland in their team, among experts at least. And we have the 37 free transfers, or maybe even hits, being taken to get Haaland in as well. These are big numbers. 37 transfers when you consider how many of our experts are not making transfers this week. That is huge, guys. So, yeah, a real priority move if you don't have him already. I know a few of you are probably ahead of the curve here. Well, fair enough to you guys. He's not the only player being transferred in, though, and we see a lot of midfielders, different midfielders, actually. And it seems like even though the experts are pretty confident that Haaland is the pick, in terms of that next midfielder to pick, it is a little bit more difficult. So Semenyo is continuing to grow as a FPL asset among experts. He's going to be up to at least 70% this week, maybe even more, including the wildcarders. So huge trends towards Semenyo over the last few weeks. And Jai is seeing a bit of interest here as well. 8 transfers in for him. Bruno Fernandes, maybe a week ago, we wouldn't expect this, but he is continuing to actually grow as an FPL asset among experts. Reinders as well. He's been popular for a while, but yeah, more transfers in for Reinders. The differential here that wasn't really picked previously is Phil Foden. None of our experts had Foden in their team last game week, but 6 will be picking him up this week using free transfers, and maybe even a few wildcarders there as well. Kudus, 5 new transfers in for him, in addition to his 22 owners from last game week. A little bit of interest in Mbermo, a little bit of interest in David Raya, and 2 new transfers up from 0 for Josko Gvardiol. Again, maybe we see more on the wild card, but we're just looking at the transfer data, guys, of course. So looking back to game week 5, there was actually a rank increase for the average experts. 47.6 was the average score. So let me know if you beat the expert average in game week 5 or not. The average current rank has improved around 600,000 places up to around 2.8 million. And we now see 14% of our experts inside the top 1 million now. So yeah, improvements from last week indeed. And yeah, like I say, this will always continue to improve. I'm not going to keep going on about the fact that you just need to have patience with the experts sometimes. We know it by now. I've spoken about it before. The experts, the cream, always rises to the top. So if you're feeling confident right now, don't get too far ahead of yourself. That's all I'm going to say there. It happens every year. But let's look at through the expert template. And again, I know I've mentioned this before today, but this template is going to look very different next week because we haven't accounted for any of the wildcard transfers, and there is a lot of them. So this is a rough guide on what the template might look like. We do see some shifts, but I think when we go to next week's video, so make sure you do subscribe for next week's video, we are going to see things a little bit differently. So no real changes with the goalkeepers and defenders, but in terms of midfield, we see a big drop for Salah, and we see an increase into the likes of Reinders, Semenyo, and Bruno Fernandes, who now find themselves in the expert template. In terms of those forwards, huge increase for Haaland. I think Mateta is actually the player who has dropped out of the forward template, but I think we could maybe even see Watkins drop out as well when we account for the wild cards too. But we'll have to wait and see till next week to see how the expert template has shifted. How much has it shifted? But certainly we can see already that there are some big moves this week before we've even accounted for the wild card. So yeah, be prepared for change is all I'm going to say there, guys. Be prepared for some very large shifts indeed. But yeah, all to come next week in next week's episode. So based on all of that, we can make some transfer suggestions before we look at our captains and our bonus questions today. So yeah, it seems pretty simple. So if you're using 2 transfers this week, and that's probably the average if you're a transfer making manager rather than a wildcarder, what are you going to do? Well, you're probably going to sell Salah first of all to free up some funds to upgrade a forward. So you're going to sell Salah. Who are you going to buy? Well, it's a bit of a toss-up between Semenyo and Jai, Bruno, and Reinders. Maybe you already have 1 or 2 of these players already. If so, you can pick one of the ones that you don't have yet. But it's really nice to see that we do have 4 clear options for midfielders you could buy this week. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to narrow that down with the players you already have. Maybe you have certain players you can or can't afford out of these 4, and maybe, you know, you have your preferences as well. But Semenyo and Jai, Bruno, Reinders, I'd maybe throw in Kudus and Foden in there as well as possibilities if you wanted to go in that direction. But yeah, that's going to be your Salah downgrade according to the expert data. And then what you're going to probably do is upgrade one of Watkins or Mateta up to Haaland. Some people might be able to afford to do Mark Gu up to Haaland as well, but typically Watkins, Mateta, if you've got one of those, whichever one is easiest to sell to upgrade to Haaland, that is what you are probably going to do this week. So really very simple this week. 2 free transfers. If you have them, spend them, use them, get Haaland in your team, and get a great midfielder in your team as well, and everybody wins now for the captains. So guys, yeah, we've gone from last game week where the experts could not decide on a captain. There were so many different captain options being used in game week 5, and now in game week 6, it is so clear. It is clear as day. 97 out of the 100 surveyed experts are going to be captaining Haaland this game week. That is enormous. It is monstrous. It is absolutely huge. In fact, only a couple of times during the entire time we have run this series. We've been running this series for years now. Only a few times have we seen more than 97%. I think we've seen like 98% once or twice, 99% maybe once. So this is one of the most certain game weeks our experts have ever been on a captain. Just a little extra note on Haaland. I know he is now flagged in FPL for some reason. He was basically fatigued at the end of the Arsenal game, and for some reason, the FPL website has put a yellow Dorito of death next to his name. Doesn't really make much sense, but Haaland is fit. He's available. He's fine. He was just a bit fatigued. So just wanted to note that. But yeah, 97 captains. That is out of 59 owners. But when we account for the wildcarders, you know, there is. Hang on, let me go back and find the exact number. So the amount of wildcarders and free hitters is 39. So that means all but one, as an absolute minimum, all but one of our wildcarders and free hitters will be bringing in Haaland this game week. So, yeah, huge, absolutely huge. So we're assuming that maybe one expert who owns Haaland is not captaining him. So, yeah, the the captain percentage is a little off this week because we haven't accounted for wildcarders and free hits, but we can say 99% of experts who own Haaland will captain Haaland. So it's such a slam dunk captaincy. It's so obvious. For those who don't have Haaland, first of all, good luck. You must be holding your breath. But we do also see 2 experts going for Salah against Palace and 1 going for Semenyo against Leeds. So they are options, I suppose, but it doesn't really seem to be a week where we mess around with captains. The best player in the league by far on form, certainly against the worst team in the league at home. Yeah, it's pretty obvious to captain Haaland this week, and maybe even triple captain him. Like I said, 97% of experts will captain Haaland, and then on top of that, around 36% of experts will be triple captaining him in combination with that. So it's a lot. Haaland captain. No need to discuss this further. I have no further notes. And we're bringing back the bonus questions this week because, yeah, you guys missed it last week, apparently. So we'll do the bonus questions from now on. Don't you worry about that one. So the bonus question I asked the experts on the 100 Experts private Discord server. First of all, what are you doing with your Aston Villa players? And we saw 18% said they never had any. 64% said they've already sold or are selling this week. None plan to sell in a future game week, but we do have actually 18% who really don't have any plans to sell their Aston Villa players yet. So, yeah, it does look like the majority have either already sold or are selling Aston Villa players this week. So if you've got Rodgers, if you've got Watkins, this is going to be the week to remove those players most likely, or maybe a few people will hold on to them. But that's the majority. That's what we're going for. We're looking for trends in these videos, and that is the trend we found. Then I also asked our experts if you were on a wild card, and a lot of them were, but I just asked, you know, if you were, just as a hypothetical, who would you prefer to pick? Haaland, Salah, both, or neither? Now, everyone said Haaland. So Haaland is 100%. If you're on a wild card, you've got to include Haaland on that wild card team. 0% said just Salah. 80% said just Haaland. 20% said both Haaland and Salah, and 0% said neither. So hopefully that's going to answer a lot of questions regarding Haaland versus Salah. What is the general opinion on this ultimate battle of these great FPL assets? Certainly historically great FPL assets. What is the expert opinion on these? And it is Team Haaland all the way right now. There's no doubts about it. So we've got some really clear ideas from that. And I think in general, in this 100 Experts video, we have got some really clear ideas about a whole bunch of stuff. So really nice to get some strong data with solid trends. I absolutely love that, guys. But if you enjoyed this one or found it helpful, drop a like. Please do subscribe as well if you want to win that copy of FC26. Or, you know, you just appreciate the content. It's always appreciated, guys, the support on the channel. But until tomorrow's video, I will see you later, mates, and feel free to check out another one if you want to. See ya. Bye-bye.